Hello again, everyone. Today I have a really special set to share with you. This is my first ShinHan gouache set, and I purchased the Professional Designer Gouache Set B, which has 24 colors. There's a Set A as well that has the basics like white and black, and then probably what you would think of as more traditional, like beginner's colors. And then, this is like the second set to fill that out. I am new to gouache. I'm just now exploring gouache. So I've been really enjoying it. And I want to make it more of my everyday practice. Sorry, I'm trying to find the paintbrush that I was going to use today for these gouaches. So this is a Princeton Umbria number 6. And this is part of a, I guess you could call it a haul of brushes that I got from Joann's in a recent sale. And this particular type of brush from Princeton is probably one of the better ones for gouache. It did actually say on there that it could be used for gouache and acrylic. It's a lot more stiff than some of the other brushes, and I think you do need a little bit of stiffness for gouache as opposed to watercolor. And this shape is one that I want to try for using more regularly for gouache. I just got this brush, and I got it for this purpose specifically. So we'll see how that works. But this is the number 6, or also called a 1/2 inch bright. So bright just means a square brush. I can't remember if bright is the shorter of the two. There's two different kinds of square brush, one that's a little longer and one that's a little shorter. I think the bright is the shorter one, which I prefer. I prefer it not to be super long. Let me see if I have something. So here's another brush that I got in the same thing. So this is called a wash brush, and as you can see, it's a little longer. It's also a different, slightly softer material, but I'm going to do a separate video on all of the brushes that I got in that little haul, so you will be able to see that separately in another video, because I did get quite a few different brushes to try out. All right, but for today, I'm going to be using this one for these gouache swatches. So I'm going to go ahead and get in here. This will be the first time I've been in here as far as swatching the paints. I have obviously opened the box because I took the sticker that was on the bottom of the box and put it here so that I could see what the colors are. I'll tell you what the colors are as we go. It also came with this that shows the different colors in the line. And basically, because I am new to gouache, I did a little bit of research on which brands to get, and supposedly this one, according to a lot of the users of gouache on YouTube and the internet, that this is one of the better professional level gouaches. One of the other sets that I have, I just got some from Daniel Smith, and I had already had some from Holbein that I never really used, but have started using more recently. And then the only other brand I've tried is Winsor and Newton. And Winsor Newton is, kind of a staple for things like that. And I do already have white and black, so that's kind of why I didn't get the set A. I also really love the look of the colors in set B. Realistically, if I do this more, I might get set A. You don't need all these colors because you can mix gouache as well. But as a beginner, I kind of wanted to start with with colors that I like, so that I could go ahead and start painting without sort of the pressure of mixing as much anyway. I probably will do that anyway, because I'll need to get the hang of mixing these and trying to figure out the right amount of water to put in, because the main appeal of gouache is that it's opaque as opposed to watercolor, which is generally transparent. There are some opaque watercolors, but with these, you don't want to dilute them too much. So I'll have to try and experiment with mixing and not adding too much water. All right, so let's go ahead and get in here with the swatches, because this will probably be a little bit of a long video because I do have 24 colors to cover. I have my page of my swatch book propped up because I do have a wet page of something else drying over there. This is the Canson watercolor sketchbook that I've been using. I finally did find it. It was under several different things, of course, as usual. But let's go ahead and get in here. So this is the 006 Quinacridone Red. And like I said, I haven't opened these, so I'm hoping they're not super jumpy out of the tube. No, it doesn't seem like it. So I'm just going to put a little bit here, and then I'm going to wet my brush, but just to the point of damp. I'm not going to wipe it off on anything, but I am going to get the excess water off on the side of the water jar. All right. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So I'm going to try and keep these swatches fairly opaque, and probably try and go a little faster with future ones, because if I go at this speed, it just has a really nice texture. It's very pleasant to brush on. I think what I'm going to do is add a little bit more water here and not rinse it off, and then see if we can get like a little bit of a dilute sample here. Although it's still pretty opaque, I have to say. Oops, let me get that down here for you a little bit. Okay, I'll do that with each of the colors, but it doesn't look like that is enough water to dilute the paint, which is good because you want your paints to be opaque for gouache. So I'm going to rinse off my brush there. That is a very saturated color, so I want to make sure I rinse it off really well. All right, so let's move on to the next one, which is Cadmium Red, which is number 015. I'm not going to go through the pigments in these. You can obviously, look that up to see, because they are pretty good about telling you which pigments are in each of these. Oh, that's interesting. So this one has a little bit of binder. That can happen sometimes. But we'll see if it has any effect on the opacity here. Yeah, it does seem like it has a little bit of an effect, but not much. I mean, it's still pretty opaque. Okay, so like I said, I am going to try and go a little faster. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to add, I'm just going to dip my brush, but I do still have some paint. I think I don't need to add as much paint as I've been adding, because it seems very, very saturated, very strong. Yeah, and I can tell a little bit that this is a little less opaque than the other side. So we'll see how that goes with the other colors. I'll keep that up. Okay, rinsing off that brush again. Then we have 024 Permanent Yellow Deep. And I'm gonna try adding less and see if we can get away with, oops, looks like there was a little piece of something on there. So let's see if we can get away with less pigment. Oh, it's like a little plastic or something. Yeah, still pretty opaque. Oh, and these are just so lovely in their texture. See if we can keep these kind of uniform. I'm gonna dip my brush and then do a little bit of a dilution here. And again, gouache is not my primary my primary medium, so this is all new and exploration for me. But I'm really looking forward to it, because what I like about the idea of gouache is it's sort of like acrylic in watercolor form, because you can layer really well. They are reactivatable like watercolor is, so if you went back in with water, you could reactivate these. 039 Naples Yellow is this one, and Naples Yellow has, oops, ooh, don't want to put too much in there. Naples Yellow has become one of my favorites for watercolor. And there's a variety of different Naples Yellows, but I've really been liking it as an opaque watercolor. Okay, so this is Naples Yellow. Very nice. Yeah, the experience of painting with these is really quite pleasant. They're just super soft and silky. And when you add a little bit of water, it just, you know, it really moves well. I'm really happy with these. And the Daniel Smith, I think, were also really nice. So I don't think it'd be bad to mix these together with that, because I do, like I said, I do have a white in that. I don't think I have a black, but so you can mix across brands. So I'm gonna try that as well. 041 Jaune Brilliant is the next one. Okay, good. It's not coming out too much, so I can use less. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. Yeah, let's just go for 5 per. Oh, nice. I'm really warming up to pastels, pastel-like colors, which this, I would consider this a pastel-like color. And it's not just because spring is here, although weather-wise it's not really. It's also really just because that's what I've been gravitating towards. But yeah, it doesn't seem like you need a lot of pigment on these at all to really get a nice opaque coverage. So this is 044 Moss Green. Lovely color. I think one of the reasons why I've been a little hesitant to start painting with gouache is because I've been a little bit yeah, intimidated maybe by the medium, first off, but also I feel like that it could end up being kind of expensive, because it's not like with watercolor, you know, you're using very little watercolor as you paint. But with these, you're generally trying to keep it opaque. So, you know, you're using more, yeah, this one seems to be a little bit less opaque than some of the others. Because you're trying to keep it opaque, you're using more pigment, and you're going to go through a tube of gouache probably faster than you would a watercolor. All right, and then we have 058 Terra Verte, or Terra Verte. It's like an earth green. Okay. But yeah, that moss green seemed, actually I'm going to look. They do have an opacity indication on here, or at least maybe they have that on the list. No, I think that's what this is. So a solid square means it's opaque, and I think all of the ones that were in here did list themselves as opaque. Oh wow, that's a beautiful green. Wow, nice. But yeah, I've been really inspired by some people on YouTube painting with gouache, nature scenes, and I would really like to do that. For those of you that don't know, I got COVID not too long ago, and that was as a result of a required business trip that my husband had to go on, and he got COVID and then I got COVID upon his return. So we kind of realized that we can't really do air travel. So we were going to go to Iceland on a vacation that we had planned kind of when we thought things were getting better with the pandemic. And then, you know, the reality is that for me, who has health issues, and for him that have health issues, it's not really over for us. So we're canceling that, and we're hoping to try and do instead like kind of a road trip, and then we can take our dog, and you know, that might be better anyway. But this is Permanent Green Deep 062. So I'm hoping that if we do something like that, I can do some nature painting there, because, you know, travel used to be a huge part of my life before COVID. We would travel overseas, or, you know, some other country at least once a year. And we're kind of in withdrawal about that, I think. But, you know, realistically, I mean, I don't want to have long-term health issues. So yeah, so for the foreseeable future, we're probably not going to be doing any air travel. But I mean, there are a lot of beautiful places in the United States that we could drive to, I suppose. So this is 068 Blue Green. And we haven't quite figured it out yet, but we'll need to soon. Yeah, we were kind of hoping that with his work trip, he would be able to take precautions and be okay. He took lots of precautions and ended up not being okay. But, you know, there's so many different opportunities to get COVID everywhere. So anyway, I could go on. I'm a little irritated with how people are acting like it's over. I'm sorry if that's offensive to you as a watcher of my videos, but you know, if you have health issues, it's especially still an issue. So as you can see, the greens are not as opaque as the prior row. This one is probably the most opaque of the greens, but this one I had a little bit of a harder time getting an opaque wash. I think with the ones that aren't showing up as opaque, I probably have to add a little bit more color. That was blue-green, right? So we had moss green, terre verte, permanent green, yes, blue-green, and then there is 071 turquoise green. And with swatching these, I'm hoping that this will be helpful to people who might be considering this set or this brand. And I got mine from Jackson's, which had a better price than some of the US stores. So I'll put a link below to this product at Jackson's. I do have an affiliate account with them, so it's no more to you than it would be normally, but I get a small commission for everything you buy. It is small, but it helps, you know. Sometimes I can get things for the channel that way, or just things, art supplies to play with. So, and Jackson's, I really love them. Even though they're in the UK, I can often get free shipping. Shipping is kind of a mixed bag. Some days it's like $20 for shipping, and then some days it's free. So I'm not quite sure how that works out. Sometimes it depends on the size of the things you're buying or something like that. But they have a really great selection, and I've never really had any issues with them ordering from here in the United States. So this is 075 Cobalt Green Pale. I'm going to start another row here. And I can get a lot of things that would be more expensive here in the United States, or just simply not available. So it's kind of nice to have that as a resource. So this one seems particularly translucent here. I'm trying to get a little bit more of a coating, but I've been doing the same for all, dipping my brush in water for this one. And, you know, as I go, I might be adding more water. So that could be part of the issue here. I'm going to try and be a little bit more careful about not adding more water, especially at the beginning. All right, so that was Cobalt Green Pale, and then we have Shadow Green Pale. So we're at the halfway mark here. I'm probably going to try and go a little faster with the rest so that I can get through these and you're not watching a super long video. Although it seems like some people, I'm going to actually have to add a little bit more water. I think I went too far to the other the other end of the spectrum. Some people seem to enjoy this kind of thing and find it relaxing. I personally do. I find it relaxing to do swatches. I find it relaxing to watch people swatch. And, you know, frankly, I could probably swatch color all day and it would just be, it would be like spa day. Seriously, I just, it's like a combination of things. It's the colors, it's the act of actually painting them. There's so many things to it. Okay, so this is 089 Peacock Blue. And part of the reason why I'm identifying all of the individual colors and numbers is you can buy these separately as individual colors. So if there's something that you see here that you really like, you could just get that color. I'm pretty sure all the colors are available individually, at least on Jackson's they are. So if you're not, you know, if you can't afford the set, or you just you don't like all the colors in the set, or whatever it may be, you can just get a few colors. And if you are starting out, I would recommend getting a white and a black, even to supplement this set if you got this set instead of like the A set, because watercolor is opaque, gouache is opaque, unlike watercolor, where watercolor you're using the white of the page for your white. For gouache, white is white. So because it's opaque, you can't see through to the page, the white page. Okay, so this is 093 Cobalt Blue. And so far, I have been really impressed by these colors. They've been super vibrant and lovely. Gonna get a little bit more of that. Really, really nice. And at some point, I'm not sure if I would want to do that on the channel. I don't think I want to do my first like landscape in gouache on the channel. That might be a little intimidating, but I may show some once I've done them, because that's the plan. Okay, that was Cobalt Blue. This next one is 098 Ultramarine Deep. And Ultramarine Deep in watercolor has become, or ultramarine, any kind of variant on ultramarine, has been a staple. Pretty much in every palette I want to have ultramarine because it mixes really, really well. It works really well in a dual primary palette as a warm blue, because with a dual primary palette you can mix pretty much every color under the sun. So what I mean, I know I say this a lot on the channel, I talk about warm and cool colors. So for this, for ultramarine, it basically means it's more towards, for blues, it means it's more towards the red end of the color wheel. So it's a little bit more towards violet and purple. And then if you were talking about a cool blue, which I would consider this one, which is Peacock Blue, it's more towards green. So if you look at a color wheel, basically you go one way it's warm, another way it's cool for every color, which is kind of fascinating, really. I love color. Color is so interesting. This is 103 Indigo. Indigo is also another one of the colors in watercolor that I try to have in all of my palettes. Sometimes I'll swap it out for a different dark color, but I usually use indigo instead of black to darken colors. So I'm eager to try some of the same tactics with gouache to see if they work in the same way. Because although, you know, they're both water-based and they're both, I guess they both could be considered in some way watercolor, because you're using water to paint with them. But they are kind of different animals, so it's gonna be a fun experiment. All right, so the next one we have here is Hydrangea Blue. Okay, And as you can see, that's almost a lavender. So we are going more towards the warm end of this color spectrum here. This looks a lot like Daniel Smith's lavender that they have in watercolor. I think they also have it in their new gouache line. Pretty sure I saw it there. Their gouache line is still a little bit limited compared to their watercolor selection, but I've been really impressed with the ones I've gotten so far. Although I do seem to be using them more like traditional watercolor because they're so heavily pigmented. I can get like a really punchy color down on the page. Okay, so this next one is 111 Lilac. This looks beautiful, really. And this looks kind of like Daniel Smith's Wisteria. That's very interesting. Lilac and Wisteria, but instead they're hydrangea blue and lilac. There is no standard when it comes to color names. So pretty much every brand does their own thing. I always think, you know, I think, who knows if this is actually true, but I sometimes think, oh, my dream job would be mixing color for some kind of paint company, but then it'd probably be kind of toxic when you think about it. Because you'd be mixing pigment all day. But I love those videos where they do factory tours of art supply places. Jackson's has a lot of those videos on their blog, where they go to a certain art supply company. This is 113 Cobalt Violet Hue. This is gonna, I have a feeling this is gonna be a little bit more of a purpley violet as opposed to a pink violet. The pink violet's more my speed. But anyway, Jackson's has a lot of those videos on their website, and I find them just so soothing to watch color mix, and then they, like, you know, pour it out into a bin. It's just, it's really, I find it really nice to watch. So if you're ever looking for, you know, color meditation to just watch, go on Jackson's blog and take a look at their, you know, how it's made. They're kind of like the how it's made videos. Yeah, and whatever happened to that show? I used to watch a show called How It's Made. Loved it. It was really kind of fun. Sometimes they would do art supplies, but usually it was just like random stuff. Like How It's Made tractors, or, you know, How It's Made crayons. They were all very random. But I always found it very soothing to watch, kind of like, you know, the, okay, this is magenta 118, kind of like, you know, watching how the paint is made on Jackson's website. And there almost always seemed to be some sort of extruder involved, which was kind of fascinating. Lots of things are extruded in the manufacturing process. So this is magenta, and this one does seem to be leaning a little bit more transparent. I'm actually going to put a little bit more on here, and that is not surprising to me because normally, I don't see the pigment on here right now, but normally pigments that make up magenta tend to be fairly transparent, just the pigments themselves. So, wow, that just kind of like disappeared into the paper, didn't it? Okay, that's interesting. But lovely. And so far, I mean, so I've got, how many? 4 left? I haven't encountered a color I don't like yet. And then here's, you know, good old standby pink, 127. I never thought I would like pink, but I love pink these days, and I'm just going to embrace that. The fact that I love pink. Pink and blue. And for a long time, and probably still, one of my favorite color combinations as far as colors being next to each other, it has been orange and blue, like any variant of blue and orange together. And I think that's still the case. I kind of was like, this is my color story when I was younger, and studying to be a set designer, which never happened. I was like, yeah, this is such a dynamic color. Oops, color combination. That was a little bit of binder there. This is raw sienna, 134. Yeah, and I didn't really, I mean, I took some art classes as well, but I don't think I knew a whole lot about color theory. I was just like, these colors look amazing together, and I didn't really realize that part of the reason that is because they are complements on the color wheel. It's a very opaque one. And the little bit of extra binder didn't really affect it too much. My issue with that is usually when there's more binder in the mix, you're gonna get a little bit of shininess. Okay, two more colors. This is 136 raw umber. Yeah, this set has 3 really nice earth colors here at the end. Oh, again, some binder. Okay. 136 raw umber. And you know, it's very interesting. I feel like this separation issue, yeah, that I would, not too happy about that one. I would probably need to go back and stir that a little bit. It's the only color that's been a little disappointing that way. I've found that across brands, earth colors sometimes are problematic. It's very interesting. Like some handmade watercolors, for example, when they get to the earth colors, they tend to not re-wet easily or some issue like that. Okay, so this is 144 sepia, and it is the last one. So remember how I was saying that I often mix indigo as a dark to darken colors? Sepia is another one that you could use for that purpose. Obviously, you're going to get a warmer tone with sepia because it's kind of like a dark brown. But let's see, this one works totally fine compared to the last one. If you prefer a warmer tone to your dark, you could use sepia, or you could have both. Okay, so I am actually, so normally I mix colors on the page when I'm doing this sort of thing. So I am just going to pick one set of colors. Let's go with indigo and orange. Or was that cadmium red? Okay, it's cadmium red, but it looks pretty orange. So I'm going to use that and the indigo together. And I'm just going to do a little color experiment right here. So I'm going to some indigo. And indigo because it is dark, and I think it usually has black in it, which is kind of ironic. I'm not using black, but there's black in the in the indigo. It tends to overwhelm some other colors, so it'd be interesting to see. I'm going to try and put sort of an equal amount here, and let's see what we get. Usually, so with watercolor, I would expect to get a neutralized color with these two. Yeah, that's kind of what we're getting. We're getting like a brown, which is very different from the other browns here. And then you can always tweak it with, you know, more of one color or another. Yeah. But I do think that this color combination would probably be a little bit more gray in watercolor. So this is something that I'll need to play with and kind of figure out how color mixing is going to work with gouache. And really the difference truly is because of the opacity, because it is opaque. All right, well, we're almost at 35 minutes. So I'm going to stop there, and I will label these after the fact. And I hope you enjoyed. This really is a lovely set. The only sort of disappointment in here was this raw umber, and I think that that could be solved by mixing it up a bit. And actually, let me see if, oh no, I'm just getting more binder. Oh, poor raw umber. Because what I was thinking is I could just put more pigment down. That would work better, but it's just kind of a gloppy mess. Okay, ShinHan. You've let me down a little bit with the raw umber, but I mean, I could kind of get it a little opaque. So the other thing with these, before I go, sorry, just one more quick thing, is that you could put these in watercolor pans and dry them out. But one of the biggest issues is cracking. So I would not keep them in a wet palette, just because, you know, that's not really, I don't really know how that would work right now, but maybe in future I'll try that out. But if I were to dry these out completely, they probably would get a little cracked, and then it's harder to maintain their opacity because you have to add water to reconstitute them. My understanding is that most people work with gouache out of the tube. So that's why I wanted to do these swatches right out of the tube. And like I said, really the only disappointment is this raw umber, and that may just be a fluke, or it could be a sensitive color to separation. It happens sometimes. But that truly is all I have for you today. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. I hope to see you next time, but in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.